Good afternoon and welcome back to Tactics Board. Today we're previewing Norwich City's final game of the season when they take on Blackpool at Carrow Road. And it is technically a dead rubber. The visitors are already relegated and Norwich obviously can't reach the playoffs, but it's Pukki's last game in yellow and green, so a little bit of a thread to follow. Hopefully there will also be signs of where Norwich may improve next season and what the team will look like. And obviously they can't bring in any new signings, but hopefully with a team that isn't necessarily focused on getting results this season, Wagner will be looking ahead to who he wants in his squad and what that's going to look like next season. Hopefully we don't see too many loanees or anything like that. But Pukki will start, as Wagner confirmed in his pre-match press conference. I'm going to show you my predicted 11 in a second and tell you who I think is going to start that game. So here it is. I've got Angus Gunn in goal, Max Aarons at right back, Andrew Omobamidele and Sam Byram at centre back, Dimitris Yannoulis at left back, Gabriel Sara, Jakob Sorensen and Liam Gibbs in central midfield, with Ono Hernandez on the right, Teemu Pukki up front and Christos Jolis on the left. So in goal, I don't think there's too much of a decision to be had unless they're absolutely sure that Tim Krul will be sold this summer and they want to sort of give him a farewell, which is actually what it felt like in the last game of last season when Dean Smith brought him back into the 11 for that 5-0 defeat by Tottenham Hotspur. But I think he's a player who most wouldn't be especially surprised to be moved on. So perhaps there is a little bit of a thread to follow in that sense, but purely based on what I expect and what Wagner has seen in the last few weeks, I think Angus Gunn is one of the only players who comes out of this season with any sort of credit, really. So, yeah, I'd expect to see him start. Max Aarons at right back. It could be a similar situation in terms of whether he's at the club next season. There have been reports that Norwich are keen to move him and Omobamidele on to raise funds for the rebuild they've promised. But for now, not really too many options. Ballymumba is part of the plans for next season, as Wagner confirmed in that pre-match press conference. But right now, it's a choice between Aarons and Byram, and it looks quite unlikely that either is at the club at the end of the summer. But between those two, with Byram potentially needed at centre-back, as you can see, I think Aarons will start on the right. And in the middle, you've got Omobamidele and Byram, and that feeling of change really is coming around because I'm already mentioning three players that could well be out of the club by the end of the summer. And Omobamidele, I think, has had quite a mixed season. There have been times where he really impressed. I remember the 0-0 draw with Rotherham at Carrow Road, where Norwich were very wasteful with their chances, but at the back they were absolutely solid, and it was up there with the best performances I've seen from Omobamidele. But I don't think he's lived up to the standards he would have hoped to at the start of the season, and potentially his value has gone down a little bit from when he had a few Premier League appearances to his name, and he was a little bit younger. But he's still a very young player, still clearly very talented, and has a high ceiling. So Norwich will hope to attract as much money as possible as they can this summer, and if not, then I'm sure he'll be a good player for Norwich in the Championship again. But Sam Byram is somebody who certainly won't be at the club. They've already announced his departure, obviously signed in 2019, and has just had his time at Carrow Road totally ruined by injuries. And yeah, it's a shame really for him because I think he has performed amicably at times. He's not necessarily the sort of modern fullback that I think somebody like Wagner or even Daniel Farke would ideally have, but when they needed somebody to fill in and be reliable, he delivered on a regular basis. So you have to commend the service he's given. Probably not a player Norwich have got their money's worth out of wage-wise because of those injury issues, but I don't think any Norwich fan will begrudge him the exit or won't wish him well because, yeah, as I said, he has committed himself to the cause when available. I've got Dimitris Yannoulis at left back, and he's a player who I think Wagner will want to keep around. He's somebody who's seen a lot of game time under the German after Dean Smith sort of chose quite often not to have him in there. And defensively, he does have weaknesses, but Wagner is so focused on the wide areas and how you can get more out of them that Yannoulis is a really key player. I thought he was good against West Brom last week, and I would expect him to start in this game. Also good against West Brom was Jakob Sorensen. He just looks so much better in midfield, and I think that's another argument for Sam Byram starting at centre-back because it allows the Dane to move forward into that midfield position. And if he can stay clear of injuries and he can stay clear of having to fill in other positions, I think next season could be a big season for him as a midfielder, and maybe even at Championship level, the solution to Norwich's long-term defensive midfield problem. So hopefully him and Gibbs in midfield offers a view into next season, because I think he's a player who can have a big future with the club, and that's why I've got him starting in midfield here. I don't think he was especially good against West Brom, but again, it's a case of limited alternatives. Kenny McLean obviously injured. Isaac Hayden expected, well, it's already been confirmed that he's going back to Newcastle United at the end of his loan spell at Carrow Road. So if you're trying to look forward to next season and you're trying to go with the players who will be with the club going forward, I think Liam Gibbs is the correct decision and one that I expect Wagner to take. And Gabriel Sara, again, with the future, is one who sort of hangs in the balance. There hasn't been any reports or suggestions that Norwich would be open to selling him. But given the financial situation of the club, if somebody comes in with 15, 20 million, it's very, very difficult to see Norwich turning that down. But he has been fantastic at times this season, obviously confirmed as the club's player of the season. I imagine that was a win by quite a close margin because there wasn't anyone that stood out, especially Angus Gunn didn't even make the top three and he was most people's favourites to win it. So yeah, not an especially ringing endorsement, but he's certainly impressed. And for somebody who came over from Brazil only last year, a very different footballing and general culture, and to come over and impress and adapt like he has, especially when you see somebody like Marcelino Nunez, who's also come over from South America and how he's struggled to adapt at times. I think that highlights how good of a signing he's been. So as much as he was expensive at Championship level, he's had a good season, and I'd expect him to start in midfield on Monday. And then I've got Ono Hernandez on the right, mainly just because it comes down to a choice between him and Marquinhos. And not only has Marquinhos been really disappointing since signing from Arsenal in January, he's also obviously returning to North London at the end of the season. And Ono Hernandez is somebody who's just signed a new contract, is somebody they really see in the future, as Stuart Webber said upon the announcement of that deal. So I'd expect to see him start, and it's a similar situation with Christos Jolis, who I actually thought had one of his best games in a Norwich shirt against West Brom. I know he had that sort of burst early in his first season where he played really well against Arsenal after scoring a couple of goals against Bournemouth in the Cup. But since then, he's really struggled to show what he's about. And I think he did that at the Hawthorns really, really well. So I expect to see him start and hopefully to play a big part next season. Teemu Pukki obviously speaks for itself. As I said, David Wagner has already revealed that he'll be starting the game, his last game in yellow and green. There's so much content around that actually on the Pink and Plus app, on pinken.com, even on this channel, coming up and already up. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, if you want more Teemu Pukki content, you're certainly not going to be disappointed. But yeah, hopefully the focus is on him and there's a lot of appreciation for him and he gets the send-off he deserves, because as much as it's been a really, really disappointing and unsuccessful season for Norwich, he's had 5 incredible years, and I think it's a way to care about this game, to be honest, is to focus on Teemu Pukki and what he's done for this club. So as much as it's a dead rubber, I hope you do enjoy it and then enjoy a nice solid break from Norwich City. Hopefully enjoy some signings before long. We've got obviously that Ashley Barnes story up now across Pinken channels, so get a look at that for the earliest sort of links. Obviously we understand he was brought to Colney to have a look around. So Norwich are pressing on with their rebuild, hopefully much more to look forward to in that sense, and we'll be bringing you all the live updates across the summer. So keep it locked to pinkham.com, subscribe to Pinkham Plus, and I'll see you very, very soon.